The family of anti-ICE agitator Alex Preddy distorts the truth on Good Morning America. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Some breaking news off the top. It is another primary Tuesday. The polls closing right now in South Carolina. The Republican Senate primary runoff between Lindsey Graham's sister Darlene and Congressman Ralph Norman, a race we have been following. We're going to keep you posted as those results do come in. But first tonight, moving along this morning, the family of Alex Preddy was interviewed on Good Morning America. Preddy, the anti-ICE agitator who had spent weeks following immigration agents around Minneapolis this past winter, harassing, obstructing, kicking their vehicles, as you see right there in that video. Preddy, as you know, was eventually killed by agents after again showing up to obstruct their work while carrying a gun, a legally owned gun that he had. Killed just a couple weeks after Renee Good, who nearly ran over an officer while committing a felony obstructing ICE agents. Preddy's mom saying this on GMA.
People need to be held responsible when they murder people in this country, period. Alex's should not, nor Renee or anyone else should have been murdered.
Murdered. Now, while you have to empathize with people who've lost a child, the truth is that this family has clearly distorted this story to ease their pain. Alex Preddy had been given tremendous grace by ICE officials, as you see more video of his actions. He had been stalking their operations for weeks, just like Renee Good had, who had spent that entire day blocking ICE agents from doing their job, a very dangerous job that they were obstructing. Committing multiple felonies, Preddy was given leeway time and time again. He was never arrested while committing active felonies against federal law enforcement. There he is spitting on a vehicle. And just like Renee Good, his actions grew bolder, spitting on that SUV, kicking the taillight right off of it. He was never arrested for that either. Emboldened even further, a week later, Preddy brings his legally owned handgun to impede in federal immigration operations. It is removed from Preddy as he is arrested on the ground, finally arrested after weeks of this. But then, after the gun is removed from him, something happens, and that's something we are not sure of. Something happens, and Preddy is shot and killed. It was a completely unnecessary tragedy if people could just stop committing felonies to try and obstruct law enforcement in this country. But some people have decided that this country, your country, is not allowed to have any immigration controls. And they've decided that they can do whatever they want to try and stop those immigration controls, including bringing their guns to try and impede federal law enforcement from doing the job of deporting the millions and millions and millions of people that the Biden administration so treasonously dumped into our country. A few people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy have decided they can do whatever they want. They can just park their car sideways across the street like Renee Good and just say, you're not going to arrest anyone else. You can't do that. And I'm just going to sit here. And then when she accelerates into a cop that's in front of her car, into an ICE agent in front of her car, she ends up dead. Most people reasonably would say that is not murder. As expected, George Stephanopoulos vilifying the president in the wake of all this for his reaction at the time to Alex Preddy's death. Listen to this part of the interview.
Shortly after his death, video emerged of Preddy in a confrontation with federal agents 11 days before he was killed in Minneapolis. Video President Trump used to go after Preddy.
President Trump called him an agitator, possible insurrectionist. What does it feel like when you hear the President of the United States saying those things about your son?
I don't think you would like my answer.
It's so unpresidential. I mean, it's ridiculous that, the leader of the free world speaks that way about an American citizen.
Again, you have to sympathize, right? Or empathize. It's a family that lost their son. But again, that doesn't change the facts of this case. The fact that their son was an agitator. He certainly was an insurrectionist in this moment. Alex Preddy was committing felonies against federal law enforcement, doing so on a fairly regular basis, as Minneapolis became the epicenter of anti-ICE. The idea that, oh, we've brought in millions and millions of people into this country illegally, and now we're not going to be deporting them. We're just going to let everyone that wants to come to America just stay in America. You can't just impede the law. There's a lot of things the government does that many of us don't like. There's a lot of things the government does that I can't stand. We're not allowed to just show up and obstruct that whenever we feel like, certainly when it comes to law enforcement and doing a very dangerous job. I want to talk about this interview further with Todd Bensman, a senior advisor to Border Czar Tom Homan during the chaos in Minneapolis. Also, Katie Zacharia, a political and legal analyst. Good to have you both here. Todd, I want to go to a little bit more. Stephanopoulos criticizing social media posts from senior staffers, also DHS officials in the wake of the Preddy death. Let's listen to that and some more from the family.
Some of those posts are still up.
Yes. We still hear those words about our child. A kid who is out observing something that should not be happening in this world today in the United States. Why?
So, Todd, she says that her son was an observer of something that shouldn't be happening in this country, which is immigration enforcement. And with that, I think she gives away a lot of the ideology of the family. How do you respond to that interview that we saw on GMA this morning?
I mean, first of all, nobody should prejudge a case like this. I think even the administration probably was premature, those officials in determining what that was, what it wasn't. But so the same can be said with all of the people on the street calling it murder within minutes after the video was released. All of that sort of thing is just out of bounds until the investigation is complete. I think everybody can agree to that now. The investigation is not complete. It is taking a long time. I would like to see that investigation completed just as much as she would, and I'm sure the ICE officers would like that as well.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would want to add here to the discussion is that, you know, you can conceal carry legally. He was legally concealed, you know, carrying his weapon in both of those. You can see his weapon in his shirt band when he kicked the light off.
Yeah.
But you don't resist arrest and get in a fight and battle in cops while you have a gun on you. That's a recipe for tragedy. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And again, you're obstructing. They let him get away with many, many felonies, Katie, as this process went on. Again, there was the same agitators over and over. The ICE agents report seeing the same people showing up every day, you know, blocking their operations, which are very dangerous operations. Those are felonies that they were letting them get away with day after day after day until it finally ends in this. The mom claiming that her son was just an observer. She's not being realistic to the situation.
Yeah, and honestly, Rob, George Stephanopoulos doesn't even challenge the narrative of the parents. Look, there is video footage of their son kicking ICE agents and federal agents' cars. He is not just a passive observer. And there is video of him intervening in the circumstances that are under active investigation. And a true journalist would at least push back and say, well, what was your son doing intervening in the ICE apprehension or CBP apprehension? And what was he doing kicking the agents? Is that peaceful? But he never challenged them. So this is multifaceted, Rob. You have the governor of Minnesota, you have the mayor of Minneapolis, and then you have the mainstream left-wing media that all upholds this narrative, this anti-ICE, this anti-immigration rhetoric that leads to empowering the violence that people feel they can use, whether it's Preddy or the days-long and weeks-long investigation that showed Renee Good actually hit an ICE officer with her car to the point where he was hospitalized for internal bleeding. This is not innocent.
They're altering a lot of history on Good Morning America today. And as you said, not a lot of pushback from Stephanopoulos. Not surprising, though, knowing GMA. Todd Bensman, Katie Zacharia, got a tight show tonight. Got to leave it there. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate it. Moving along, we talked about it last night. The communist insurgency threatening the Democrat Party. A number of high-profile Democrats admitting that the party is being commandeered by radicals that seek to destroy it and also destroy the U.S. Constitution at the same time. Hillary Clinton speaking this week, speaking on Monday, trying to marginalize what is becoming a very serious problem. Take a listen.
The Democratic Party right now is, I think, going through a kind of experiment. Like, who can actually respond, particularly to young people's very real concerns about where they are at this point in their lives and what kind of future do they have for themselves. And I think that's healthy.
Young people's very real concerns about what politicians have done to our economy and cost of living through excessive government growth and deficit spending. The explosion in the size of the government, which was once a $5 trillion government, is now a $7 trillion government. That was all funded. It started and was funded by devaluing your paycheck during COVID. And that pain is still being felt. 22% inflation takes years to fully digest into an economy. And although Trump's war in Iran certainly isn't helping, it's far from the main reason that Americans are in so much financial pain. And the communist contagion that it is causing, that we're seeing in this country, is far from healthy, as Hillary Clinton claims. All right, the president's agriculture secretary, Brooke Rollins, joins us now, also the founder of the America First Policy Institute. And Madam Secretary, it's good to see you again. I want to start with the Democrat Party has a pretty clear problem here. They have a communist problem. If you watched Bill Maher over the weekend, you had Maher, you had CNN's Dana Bash, you had a New York Times reporter all talking about the DSA, Democrat Socialist America, their stated goals as this party kind of loses power to this coalition. And their stated goals are to end the Democrat Party and to end the Constitution of the country as well. How big of a threat is that to this party?
Well, here's the good news. Hopefully most Americans, they're saying the quiet part out loud, right, Rob? For all these decades, those who believed in that were a little bit quieter about their belief system, right? We kind of argued back and forth about freedom and conservatives and Republicans and Democrats, but now they're saying the quiet part out loud. And I think 7 out of 10, if not 8 out of 10 Americans do not agree we should get rid of the police, right? We should get rid of the Constitution. We should get rid of all of the things that have made this country great. So I firmly believe that if we continue to make our case to the American people that less government, that more freedom, that lower taxes, that less regulation, that is how you really achieve the American dream, that we will continue to win. So I'm bullish on our prospects moving forward.
Yeah, it's something to see what's happening to that party, and it was very, at least, refreshing to hear somebody admit what's going on, because it's pretty obvious to most people to see that all the energy of that party is in a very dangerous place, and it's gaining momentum rapidly, and the rest of the party really doesn't know how to run or what to or how to handle it, and it's incredible to see these people, like the broader party, the establishment, I would say, is campaigning on affordability right now, which is priceless to me, because these are the same people that decimated affordability by growing the government out of control, nearly 50% larger, using COVID-19 as an excuse. They couldn't wait to do that. They couldn't wait to just dump trillions more into government every single year and decimate your paycheck. And now here's how Hakeem Jeffries sounds. Take a listen.
The affordability crisis in this country is very real. It needs to be dealt with. People are drowning in this failed economy and are demanding action. Life is too expensive. Far too many people are stressed the F out.
Oh, he's using the F word. I guess that's supposed to make us forget that it's largely his own fault.
That is actually, I almost laugh out loud at how ridiculous he sounds. Yeah. But also, it sickens me, because I think a lot of Americans have perhaps forgotten just how bad it was, right? The cost of food went up 25% under Joe Biden. They say now the cost of food under we're only 3%, and that's in line with the average 20-year inflation. 25% cost of food, something like 140% the cost of a mortgage. Interest rates up, everything up. And to your point, we drove that, or I should say they drove that. The United States government drove that between 2021 and 2025 with outrageous government spending. The SNAP program alone at USDA increased 40%. That's food stamps. So now, as we're working to right-size all of that and return power to the people, the fact that the Democrats would actually stand up and out of their mouths say affordability and they can fix it is astonishing.
But I mean, the truth is, though, on the other side of it, you have this affordability issue, and we knew this would happen. You knew that this would bleed over into this administration because prices were never going to deflate. So the pain of 25% inflation during Biden was going to be felt for years and years and years to come. But now, I think the problem is you got this war in Iran that's letting them have this ammunition. It's letting them say, look, Trump didn't do anything about it. Gas is still $4 or $5. Everything's still expensive. Elect us back. How do you fight that? How do you counter that going into November?
Well, I certainly believe that that the American people will understand. I mean, I talked about this a little bit. The Iranian war, from the numbers, is not popular, but I do think what is popular is this president's unequivocal, resolute, convicted heart that he is going to do what he believes is right. He will not govern by the polls. And the idea that a nuclear weapon under the government of the country that's killing its own people for saying they want a new government. I mean, I don't know that Americans can fully understand what's happening with this regime over in Iran, and the president stepped in. Now, having said that, he is hyper-focused still on affordability, still bringing the cost down. And, Rob, I think what's important is, you know, even though, let's take, eggs are way down, as we all know, berries are down, fruits are down, but let's take beef as an example. Ground beef has gone up. The president has talked about that in recent days. But under Joe Biden, I think it's gone up 15 or 16%. Under Joe Biden, it went up 25%, just the cost of beef. Right. And that is at a time that the Democrats waged war on our ranchers. They said climate change was caused by cow burps, and they didn't want any more cattle in our country. So it takes a minute to change the ship, right? To right-size the ship, to encourage our ranchers, encourage our food supply, to reshore back to America fertilizer, right? Fuel. All of the things that we've offshored over the last number of years, and especially under the last administration.
Well, you did, and you pointed to it a second ago, but the SNAP enrollment plummeting, that's a great thing to see, and you got to get people off the dole. You got to get people back to work. That's so critical for a functioning, prosperous country. I want to bring up one more thing for you before I let you go. A new initiative with HHS making school lunches healthy again. It's called Harvest to Hallways. We've got Secretary Kennedy on the show tonight as well, making sure that kids get real food in their school lunches that match dietary guidelines, real, actual food, you know, fruits and vegetables and meat and bread and the things that we're supposed to be eating. There's almost 15 million fat kids in this country, overweight, obese kids. We have got to you can't start off life at the earliest points being overweight. That is a terrible start.
Well, and then you think about the health care costs, right, to the American taxpayer later. So it is about the American dream and about healthy kids and about military service, being able to qualify for the military, but it's also about the bankrupting of the American taxpayer because of our health care costs. So just a quick thing on that, Harvest to Hallways. Secretary Kennedy and I released it yesterday, that the unprecedented historical partnership between Bobby and myself, it's never happened before, but you bring agriculture and real food and you partner it with Health and Human Services. Every day USDA provides tens of millions of lunches and breakfasts. We pay for it. Let's make sure we're procuring real food from farmers, locally sourced. Let's put ovens and cold storage back into school lunchrooms, which have been taken out over the last decade or so. And let's make America great again, healthy again, and get agriculture back in the middle of it.
Get the kids healthy again. I love that. The Ag Secretary, Brooke Rollins, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be on.
All right. Former NBA star Enes Kanter freedom is stirring up all kinds of chaos for the WNBA. Exposing just how crippled the league is by political correctness and by wokeness. Enes joins us up next.
A Social Security update. Millions collect Social Security, but 70% of Americans don't get their full benefits. Now, a new report shows how to boost your Social Security by as much as $188,000. Author Matthew Allen reveals 5 key strategies in a new report. Newsmax calls it the best guide for retirees. Everyone needs this free Social Security report. Act today to get your full benefits.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's high absorption magnesium glycinate helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
While this banana may not save you from someone breaking into your home, Berna's banana helped one vet repel an intruder in his.
This huge guy, 6'5", 6'6", just barreled through my front door. I have my Berna and my Glock. I always go for the Berna first. I've seen enough death and destruction the last 2 lifetimes. Here is the perfect item I can have, feel totally safe, and know I'm not going to kill anybody.
At Berna, we don't sell bananas, we sell peace of mind.
Flags of Fellowship began as a visible act of remembrance and solidarity. It can honor lives lost, but we have seen it become something more.
All of these flags, they're symbolic of the victims and the people who lost their lives during the October 7th attacks.
We can't just say we stand with Israel. We have to show and explain why we stand with Israel.
We can say, and what we can do as Christians is we can say, never alone.
I believe as a church, as a congregation, we have a responsibility to lead with our faith.
They see us raising those flags, they feel supported, they also feel proud.
This is the moment they deserve. And the one way is the flag, and put it outside.
A flag can be more than a symbol. It can become a bridge of hope and support.
Join over 2,500 churches and synagogues participating in Flags of Fellowship. Visit ifcj.org/FOF.
Want to see a ripple effect? It starts with one action. Get an Aquasana water filter and improve the quality of your water everywhere it flows.
One change, big difference.
Now up to 55% off at aquasana.com.
I've been in the fitness industry for more than 25 years. I put people through the ringer with their body. You also have to recover, and Fatty 15 is a built-in recovery system for your cells. Fatty 15 strengthens cells from age-related breakdown, and the science supports Fatty 15. You can't have a healthy outside if you're not taking care of the inside. I just feel really good, and I want you to feel good too.
6-point basketball game. Chicago staying in it. And right before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena. After Natasha Cloud got that bucket, she wanted her voice heard. That is Enes Kanter in the building today. Kanter was just escorted out.
So that's the moment right there, right? Enes Kanter tossed from Sunday's game between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever after some words between himself and a player for Chicago on the court. After that happened, front office sports reporting that neither Enes Kanter nor Royce White will be allowed to play in the WNBA, which is something they have threatened that they want to do. And we know what that would do to the WNBA. Quote, the league is not going to give oxygen to efforts designed to mock the league or use this topic, the topic of transgenderism, to demean and marginalize others. However, Kanter telling the New York Post that nobody in the league has informed him of any ineligibility. He calls it potentially fake news. Meanwhile, Royce White is getting his attorney, who is former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, involved in this. Gaetz warning the WNBA on X, saying that the league has not notified Royce White or our legal team of any decision on draft eligibility, as is their standard practice and policy. The WNBA should preserve all records in anticipation of litigation. So this is pretty interesting. Enes Kanter Freedom joins us now. Good to have you on. You got your shirt on. You're ready to join the league. Let's just talk about this. Let's be frank here. The WNBA has no clue what to do here, and they're making a really, really big decision that they don't know how to make. And they just want all of this to go away. And you're not letting that happen.
So back in May, I was watching the WNBA, one of the WNBA games, because I am actually a huge fan of the game. And right after the game, right, I'm on my social media and I'm just like scrolling, and I saw this, one of the players, one of the WNBA players was actually saying that I have no problem having a trans athlete in my team or against my team, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, you know, right after that, I start to look at the collective bargaining. And Article 13, Section 1 says only women are allowed to play in the WNBAs, but they don't identify what a woman is. So I'm like, you know what? I'm in.
You're in. Why not? And here's the frank truth is that they don't want men in this league. It would decimate the league. You and Royce White would destroy this league, and everybody knows that. But they also, at the same time, they can't possibly be viewed as unaccepting or intolerant or anti-woke or anti-transgenderism. They are in the biggest conundrum they could possibly have because they have no idea what to do. What do you think they're going to do? Because you're not letting this go.
I am not going to let this go because, listen, they are the one putting these rules, and I'm just following the rules. If they ever come out and actually change the rule and said only biological female can play in this league, only, or like a born female can, then I'm fine. Listen, I'm not a troublemaker. I'm a peacemaker. So if they come out and change the rule, I'm all fine. I will drop everything immediately, you know? But these are the rules that they put, and I'm just following their rules. If you identify as a female, which I am, you're allowed to play in this league.
And what you're doing is you're just trying to protect the sanctity of women having a sport, of women having a place for themselves to play sports. Because there's a reason that there is a WNBA to begin with. Because if they were all playing in the NBA, none of them would get into the league. So that's why the WNBA exists in the first place. And yet, you are being vilified. You have all of these angry women who just think you're the biggest a-hole in the world for doing this, and you're doing it to protect them.
Listen, this has nothing to do with politics. This shouldn't even be a right or left issue. No. This is just common sense, you know? I mean, I am 7 foot, 280 pounds, and I can literally just, if I ever play in this league, which I know I will, if they don't change the rules because I am eligible to play, I promise you, I'm gonna go out there to try to break Will Chamberlain 100-point record, and just the name of equality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To send a hell of a message to the upper echelons of what is a very, very unintelligent league. Real quick, the non-binary mascot, the Toronto Tempo debuting a non-binary mascot ahead of the matchup with Sophie Cunningham and the Indiana Fever. Why do they? I mean, they're making this worse. Everybody's blaming you for continuing to pit this fight. They're doing it too.
You know what? First of all, one thing about Sophie Cunningham, she's a national treasure, an American hero, and she must be protected at all costs. You know, she's not only inspiring people in America, but she's inspiring girls from all over the world. And you know what? Good for her. She's a friend, and I'm just really proud of her. I just hope that none of these outside talk that will distract her from her game, because she's mentally tough. She's not going to be distracted. You know what? Like you said, they're just making it worse for themselves. But you know what? It just showed my point. I guess I'm just going to have to put my name on the draft and just dominate the whole league in the name of equality.
I got 10 seconds left. What's your message to the commissioner and the people running the league?
Stop hiding behind task forces. Come out and just explain the whole world what a woman is. Please, for the love of God.
Please do it. Enes Kanter Freedom. Good to see you again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Coming up next, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna join us.
Hydration or creatine? Most people think they have to choose, but you don't. Get electrolytes to help replenish what you lose through sweat, plus 5 grams of creatine to help support strength, power, and recovery. 2 supplements, 1 stick, 1 less thing to think about.
At Ancestry, we believe every question about the past is a spark. And when curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. How is your family woven into 250 years of U.S. history? Find out now at Ancestry.
My gutters were clogged, and I know that can be a big problem, so I called Leaf Filter.
Leaf Filter Pros will clean out, reinforce, and protect your gutters. Our surgical-grade stainless steel micro mesh keeps the debris out and water moving. Call or click today.
Yeah. 2 p.m. still works great. We'll put our best guy on the job.
You said you were the best guy.
Also the sales guy.
You should check out Capitus. You can get a fast business loan and hire some help.
Customer service, please hold. Loans are complicated.
Not with Capitus. It's easy to apply, and there are no hidden fees.
I got this.
Stop waiting, start growing, get the funding you need at Capitus.com. You should probably call HR.
You're looking at HR.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
I'm an advocate for student well-being. When it comes to understanding mental health, we've made great strides. But young people today are experiencing an unprecedented mental health and well-being challenge. The reasons are complex. Maybe it's academic pressure, or economic stress, or social isolation, or something else. As students, we're trying our best. So are our parents. But if we are going to improve youth mental health, we need a comprehensive approach that looks at all our sources of stress and is informed by us, the students. Get involved today at EmpowerOurFutureCoalition.com.
When Saturday rolls around, I don't want to jump through hoops to watch college football. Good thing DirecTV makes it easy to keep up with my favorite college teams. No hopping between apps or channels.
Stream college football without the hurdles on DirecTV.
This is the Mahindra Roxor, the side-by-side that doesn't play by the rules. The other guys think plastic can hack it. The Roxor rides with steel. They pull back on power. The Roxor packs a turbo diesel punch. And when they start breaking down, the Roxor's barely broken in. The Mahindra Roxor, built like nothing else. Get up to 3,000 cashback or 0 for 36 with our limited time red, white, and blue summer savings.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Beef prices are hitting people so hard.
Beef prices are up 24% since President Trump took office.
Beef prices are incredibly high, and it's painful.
A crisis partly of his own making. Donald Trump announced that he's negotiated a deal to lower beef prices.
All right, the Trump administration, as you see there, getting a lot of heat over the price of beef. As of July, ground beef costing an average of $6.89 a pound. American ranchers currently facing a historic cattle shortage in this country, the smallest domestic cattle herd in the past 75 years, a problem that was, in all fairness, largely created under the last administration. Trump importing foreign beef right now to try and take the edge off the price, announcing on Truth Social for the next 90 days, the U.S. will allow up to 300,000 metric tons of product for ground beef to be imported with no out-of-quota tariff. Adding, we have a commitment that this beef will be sold at 25% below current market prices. This deal will reduce prices for Americans while giving space for our great American beef herd to grow again. Here was the president asked about this on Friday.
The move on beef imports is upsetting some ranchers, as well as some Republicans are asking you to delay that move on imports.
Well, we want to get the beef prices down, so we'll get them down a little bit. And that's what people want. That's what the voters want. And that's what I want. The ranchers are great. They're my people. I love the ranchers. They've done a fantastic job. But they admit that we need a little help and in order to get the prices down. So that's what we're doing.
So it's a tricky situation trying to get the price down. The White House is facing criticism, though. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association, America's largest association of cattle ranchers, reacting, saying today's announcement is not about helping producers. It is 100% about the 74 days between now and the midterm elections. Incentivizing additional foreign imports undermines America's producers. A number of Republican senators also criticizing that plan. You can see the tweets posted right there. The Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, joins us now. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna also with us from Life Farms in Clearwater, Florida. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But first, I want to start with this. And Secretary Kennedy, good to see you again. Explain the beef situation and why the cattle ranchers should take a pause here and give us a break on this, give the White House a break on this.
Well, this president has done more and cared more about cattle ranchers in this country than any president in my lifetime, probably since Franklin Roosevelt. He's cared more about farmers. During the screwworm crisis, the ports were closed. And when the ports were closed, there were 500,000 tons of beef that did not make it into our country. And the price of beef as a result of that went up now in beef, because otherwise the ground beef, which particularly the people who have less resources in this country eat ground beef, and President Trump cares about that group and wants to make sure that they can get the protein they need.
Right. Yeah, well said. We're taking a couple of hits. I know you're inside of a facility there where we're trying to get this shot from. Congresswoman, I want to talk for a second just about regenerative farming, which is, I guess, an idea to try and help make farming more sustainable, make this process a little easier for the farmers. Talk about what you're doing at Life Farms today in Clearwater, Florida.
Well, look, this is one of the best farms, most well-known farms that we have in Pinellas County. Obviously, we are not a huge ag district. However, organizations, farms like this working within the local community, and also to bringing back the conversation to how policies, especially in Washington, D.C., interfacing with the administration, HHS, and then also to our office to ensure that some of these local farmers, regenerative farmers that are truly the future of farming in this country are getting the resources and have an audience with people that are actually able to affect policy. Right now, the current farming practices are in bad shape. Right now, we need to focus and make sure that they are able to restore the health of their soils, and that's not being done through the current process of farming. So it's in part an education campaign with Congress, with the help of HHS Secretary Kennedy, who spent extensive time and also allocated resources specifically from HHS to this exact issue. So we're very happy to come from a local farm, share this platform, this information, and help out these farmers.
Mr. Secretary, talk to a little bit more to the issues that farmers are facing, how you guys are trying to correct that.
Well, President Trump is making the first big investment in our nation's history in regenerative farming. He's put over $1 billion into USDA and my agency to create off-ramps so that farmers who want to transition from chemically intensive agriculture to a more sustainable regenerative agriculture can do so. USDA got 60,000 responses to that funding opportunity, more than any in their history, and that's a really good sign for our country. It indicates that the farm community, the agricultural community, is really interested in these alternatives. We see it every day. They want to lower the price of inputs. They want to be able to sell their product abroad, and some of those countries are blocking pesticide-contaminated products. They want to save the microbiome in their soil, and they understand that chemicals are hurting them. Iowa now has the highest cancer rate in the world. Kentucky has the second highest. These are agricultural communities. Within the farm community, there's a lot of interest in trying to figure out ways to transition out.
Yeah, those numbers, those facts are just so scary. What these chemicals are doing to us. It's so nice to have somebody at Health that actually is looking at that, is willing to look at these things, even though you take a lot of grief for it, and I don't understand why. I want to get to two other topics with you both before I let you guys go. Congresswoman, you've introduced a new bipartisan bill called the Foreign Propaganda Disclosure Act, which would require social media influencers to disclose any payments that they could be taking from foreign governments. Talk to that for a second.
Oh, yeah, and it goes a step further in updating the FARA legislation to include influencers. As you know, as it is, if you're a paid actor for a foreign government, you have to disclose it, but not if you're an influencer. So we're making sure that that's in there. This also, too, covers if they are running these funds through an LLC. So there's been slippery ways where they've been able to get around this, but ultimately, friend or foe, it doesn't matter. If you are taking money from a foreign government to interfere in politics, then guess what? You're now going to have to disclose it. And we're getting a massive amount of support, both the Democrat and Republican, on this. Yeah. It's, again, not aimed at anyone in particular, but the fact is that the divide in this country is largely from this type of operation that's being run, and the PSYOP stops here.
Yeah. Secretary Kennedy, one final one to you, one that you might not expect, but it just came across. NBC is reporting the Trump administration is threatening to demolish the Kennedy Center, named in honor of your uncle, if the courts continue to block renovations to it as they try to make improvements to it. They claim it's not structurally sound or safe. Being that it's named after your uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr., wanted to get your reaction to that threat from the administration.
Well, you know, I've never heard of that, and I have much bigger fish to fry. We've got the sickest generation of children in history. 77% of American kids can't qualify for military service because of chronic disease. And I'm very, very grateful to President Trump for giving me this opportunity to fix the biggest problem that we're dealing with as a nation.
Well, we want to thank you for looking out for the health of Americans, something I think has been neglected by a lot of people that have had your job in the past, Mr. Secretary. Thanks so much for coming on. I know it's hot in that room. I know it's hot in Florida right now. Secretary
it is
Kennedy.
So hot.
It's really hot. We're in a greenhouse.
I know you're cooking in there. I know. I get it. I do get it. Congresswoman, thanks so much. Secretary Kennedy, good to see you both. Thanks for sticking with us for about 8 minutes there. Good to see you guys.
You too.
All right. Hot room, rough signal, but we got through it. All right, coming up. One of the biggest music stars to ever live has died. Remembering Dolly Parton. Up next.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finity, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
While this banana may not save you from someone breaking into your home, Berna's banana helped one vet repel an intruder in his.
This huge guy, 6'5", 6'6", just barreled through my front door. I have my Berna and my Glock. I always go for the Berna first. I've seen enough death and destruction to last 2 lifetimes. Here is the perfect item I can have, feel totally safe, and know I'm not going to kill anybody.
At Berna, we don't sell bananas, we sell peace of mind.
Your home protects what matters most. Now your water can too. Introducing Aquasana Health Shield, whole home filtration that helps reduce 61 contaminants, including PFAS, VOCs, pesticides, and more. Visit healthshield.com today.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
Whoever trusted me in the car with this has made a terrible mistake. Yep, us kids can really make a mess of summer. So, my parents got smart and decked out the car with WeatherTech. Summer's here. Visit WeatherTech.com to kid-proof your car for summer.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric that helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Hi, I'm Mike Hammond with Signal Relief. If your back bothers you day after day, you know it doesn't just affect your back. It changes how you stand, walk, sleep, and how you feel about yourself. Maybe you smile through the grandkids' game, the grocery store, the yard work, or the family trip, quietly counting the minutes until you must sit down, or maybe you just miss those moments altogether. I know how frustrating it is when your body starts making decisions for you. And that's why I'm proud to introduce Signal Core, our new back support system built specifically for everyday backaches. More technology means more relief, and Signal Core has twice the technology as the original patch. And it comes with our money-back guarantee. It's targeted drug-free back support that you can wear through the day. Try Signal Core today by going to signalrelief.com and order your Signal Core.
I wish you
Some incredible talent you heard just there, and today we lost a legend, Dolly Parton, passing at the age of 80 years old. No details have been provided about her death at this time, but it comes after the Queen of Country canceled a Vegas show back in May. Pardon said she had been undergoing treatment for kidney stones for several years, and she had just lost her husband of 59 years a year ago. The president posting, very sad to report that Dolly Parton, one of the greatest country singers and far beyond ever, has just passed away. This is a true loss for millions of people. There has never been anyone like her and never will. In her honor, I am lowering the American flag throughout the United States for a one-week period beginning tonight at 6 p.m. Rest in peace, Dolly. The world loves you, and he is right about that. Another music legend joins us tonight to talk about this. Pat Boone is with us. And, sir, it is good to see you again. I just want to start with your reaction to what we heard today and tell us about Dolly Parton.
Well, I'm shocked that the reaction is, because here I am. I'm 92 and I'm still at it. and I just assumed that she would be the same, you know. But that's life. And of course, on the other side, it's death, too. You never know. And we all need to be aware. Yeah. But she was a bigger than life kind of person. She made everybody happy. Everything she did was done excellently well. And she had a great sense of humor. And of course, being country, she knew that I was married to Red Foley's daughter, Shirley. And I was a close friend of Red Foley, and so was she. In fact, she revered him as one of the Grand Ole Opry and country music's major stars ever, Red Foley. And I'm married to his daughter. So we were on this plane together, coming from Nashville to L.A., and we decided to take a picture, and Shirley was taking the picture. Well, we decided I would sit in Dolly's lap. And it was only as I tried doing that, as you're seeing, that she has a very small lap. Yeah. There was not much.
Nowhere to sit.
Much room there. And we made a big joke about it, you know, but that was her. She was just frolicking and full of fun and life. Yeah. And a joy to be around.
Yeah, I've been watching videos. You know, when people like this pass, you just kind of, the nostalgia hits, and you start to just look for anything, and it's all over X and Instagram, everything right now. You just see the talent of this woman. I saw a video of her performing for Johnny Carson on the Johnny Carson show and just playing the guitar, and the voice was so pure. Everything, there's no trickery to it. It was just her and the guitar. I mean, she was just an incredibly talented woman. You say you have an interesting story about the start of both of your careers, and that you helped Dolly kind of get started in a way. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, I was on the Porter Wagoner show. I did my own country music show, and so did Red Foley. And so she became famous with Porter Wagoner. And so we sort of came up together. Of course, growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, I was considered originally a country artist myself, but then along came rock and roll, and I began to make all kinds of rock and roll records, and then graduated to every other kind of music as well. But we sort of, there was a lack of brotherhood or a sisterhood. I will tell you something, that on that plane ride, I had a chance to ask her a question, which maybe other people have asked about. How did a woman of open faith play a madam in the best little whorehouse in Texas? How did she rationalize that?
Yeah.
And but I tell you, seriously, I'm glad to have the opportunity to say she knew that it was a musical. It was fun. It was not to be taken seriously. However, she was bringing some interest to women who were trapped in a way of life that is not humorous and is not musical. And she hoped to make them all seem humane and human and lovable. And that was sort of her approach to it. I still have some questions about that being some other way.
Yeah.
But that was how she, for her, the approach was to make all these women who were forced into something that maybe they didn't like were real human beings and worthy of being loved, as was Dolly herself.
Well, Pat, I really appreciate you coming on and telling us the story. Both of you are just such incredible slices of Americana, just such a beautiful part of our culture that we appreciate so much. And thank you so much for sharing those stories about her and for coming on tonight.
Well, thank you for it. And we'll be happy for her. She'd want us to be, because she's in heaven. She believes in heaven, and I believe she's there. And there's a little joy there, too, at her company.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
All right. News from the left is coming up next.
American spirit. It drives the Good Ranchers mission. Forged under open skies. Woven into who we are. From thundering cattle to the laughter we share around the table. It's a legacy carried forward. One meal, one gathering, one generation at a time. This is Good Ranchers, an American meat company built on American spirit.
Doctors' Preferred Liver Defense is doctor-developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple-tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctors Preferred. Better science, better results.
Kibble. It's been the standard for decades, and it's failing our dogs. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It's gently air-dried, locking in the nutrients and the flavor dogs go wild for. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
Our nurse-led care anticipates needs before they're voiced. From skilled nursing to companion care that renews the soul.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Melissa, and together, using my years of apparel experience, we set out to make the world's best fitting t-shirt.
For most of my life, I've worn a black t-shirt, and most were either too short, too baggy, or weren't consistent. Our Fresh Clean tees were made to offer a flattering fit for all body types, be ridiculously soft and comfortable, and not break the bank.
And more than 1 million customers later, we still make every t-shirt with the same attention to detail as when we first started.
Unleash your confidence at freshcleanthreads.com.
Today's AI capabilities can make your head spin, but for scammers, it's the ultimate tool. They're using AI to exploit tech gaps and slip past traditional security. PCmatic keeps your information private and devices safe with online security solutions developed in America to protect Americans. Built for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Secure 5 devices for just $50 for your first year. Get online protection at PCmatic.com.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
The human brain is truly incredible. It's a complex network of 100 billion neurons that create cognitive functions surpassing that of supercomputers. Our brain controls our thoughts, our emotions, and our movements. Prevagen is powered by apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish, and is designed specifically for the brain to help keep it amazing, so that we can continue to live our best life. Try Prevagen for your brain today.
All right, welcome back. Checking in on that South Carolina runoff primary. 20% of the vote in so far. Darlene Graham right now leads Ralph Norman 54-46. We'll see if these numbers stay like this and follow it as the results come in throughout the night here on Newsmax. Time now for news from the left. Gary, Indiana Mayor Eddie Melton on with Don Lemon, and as you would expect, both claiming that the city of Gary has been without power for 2 weeks because of the color of the people that live there.
This is, to me, it feels like neglect.
Do you think that some of that neglect came from, maybe in part because Gary is a black working class city?
100%. During the middle of the restoration process, the utility company, they were releasing the updates of restoration. And Gary was not listed on that restoration list. It would appear that we're being forgotten.
You wonder what Don Lemon would do if he didn't have race as a topic. What would he talk about? Should be noted that there was a story of one power crew fixing the power in Gary, Indiana, that ended up taking shots fired from somebody in the neighborhood. That probably didn't help speed up the process. And finally, Girl Scouts now being offered Muslim badges earned by learning the pillars of Islam and by visiting mosques here in this country. The Scouts also incorporating Islamic religious instruction, prayer, and activities into scouting programs. White House correspondent Natalie Winters reporting that mosque-based troops in several states are embedding prayer, hijab rules, Ramadan, Islamic education, and mosque outreach into Girl Scouting. The irony of all of this is Islam has such strict control over women in so many other countries. They should teach these girls about Sharia law if they're going to play these games. All right, coming up, rent control, subsidized grocery stores, now U.S. Open tennis tickets. Mamdani decides to exacerbate another big New York problem. We'll explain.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Pain and Inflammation Relief Roll-On.
Your muscle and joint inflammation is real. Here's what real customers are saying about MagnaLife Pain and Inflammation Relief Roll-On. It worked great.
Available at your local retailer.
The knife skipped and went right into my arm.
He said, "Reg, I cut myself. I cut myself really bad." He lifted his arm up and the blood was shooting out of it.
When Andy just yelled out, "Does anyone have any Z-Zips?" Yes, they're on this flap, and here it is.
Thanks to the team effort, and by the grace of God, I'm alive today.
It was that very Sunday night that we got home that I ordered a My Medic pack.
It's me, Ricky. You grew up with me. I am using Fatty 15 to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. I urge you to try Fatty 15.
While this banana may not save you from someone breaking into your home, Berna's banana helped one vet repel an intruder in his.
This huge guy, 6'5", 6'6", just barreled through my front door. I have my Berna and my Glock. I always go for the Berna first. I've seen enough death and destruction to last 2 lifetimes. Here is the perfect item I can have, feel totally safe, and know I'm not going to kill anybody.
At Berna, we don't sell bananas, we sell peace of mind.
You think carefully about what fuels your body.
The way you move, the food you eat.
Aquasana water filters reduce contaminants, delivering cleaner, healthier water.
When your water is better, everything it touches is too.
Now up to 55% off at aquasana.com.
This Home Depot bestseller is helping homeowners transform their homes in a weekend. Get the look of stone without expensive labor or lengthy installations, and even do it yourself. Most projects take just a few hours. Genstone is Home Depot's top-rated and best-selling faux stone panel system, trusted by thousands of homeowners nationwide. Genstone's perfect for any flat surface, including foundations, siding, fireplaces, and more. With fast, free delivery in as little as 1 to 2 days, your project can start this weekend. Save on Genstone during this exclusive Home Depot event. Text DEPOT to 59583 and we'll send you a direct link to shop.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
All right, finally tonight, New York's mayor has a plan to make the U.S. Open tennis tournament here in the city more affordable. The same gimmick he's using for everything else.
$998, $999, $1,000. New York, we're dropping 1,000 discounted tickets to the U.S. Open tomorrow at 10 a.m. $100 a pop. First come, first serve. Because tennis should be for everyone.
Who's going to get him is all the people that are friends with people at his office, by the way. And just like rent control and city grocery stores, Everyone pays a little more, so the lucky few get an arbitrarily cheap ticket or a cheap apartment or cheaper groceries. It's all a scam from a communist, as it always is. Rob Finnerty's up next.
Robert Finnerty. Not to mention the U.S. Open in New York is like 2 weeks long. 1,000 tickets?
Yeah.
You can't make that like 5,000 tickets or like 300 a day or something like that?
It would just make the problem even worse. It's all just a scam. It's so funny. It's just like rent control. Oh, I get a cheap rent. Everyone else pays more.
Right. Well, by the way, you play tennis. Was that a tennis racket? It's like,
yeah, that's a tennis racket from 1925.
Okay. And that was not his first take doing that, where he was like, that was multiple takes. Rob, we'll do it tomorrow. Finnerty starts right now.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.